You know, we recently relocated from Nashville, Tennessee, and in the music city, and all of the artists and a lot of my friends, and we're talking, and it's very common. It's almost kind of chic to say, hey, I've got ADHD. You know, I've had so many guys tell me that. How common is that?
Well, ADHD, it's about 8% of people have ADHD, about 13% of males, about 5% of females. It seems to be growing more and more in prevalence over the last 20 or 30 years, and we're not quite sure, you know, why that is. Some people say it's overdiagnosed. It's diagnosed all the time in people, and some people say, well, it's still underdiagnosed. And there's a lot of people struggling with ADHD symptoms and issues that aren't getting any treatment in the process. So it's a real controversial, you know, psychiatric diagnosis that's now out in the news.
Well, it's for kids too. I mean, no, that's not what they call it for kids. There's another diagnosis.
No, it's ADHD. I mean, in the olden days, you'll hear jokes that it was called BAD, bad kids. You know?
I might have been one of those.
But, you know, now it's ADHD. It used to be called minimal brain dysfunction in the past, the idea that the brain just isn't working very well. And so it's called ADHD. The A is attention, H, hyperactivity, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And a person can have either just attention issues like concentration, focus, distractibility, organization of their schoolwork and those kind of things, or they can have the hyperactive impulsive of those kids that are, you know, the classic ones that are rammy, can't sit still, always fidgeting, blurting out, interrupting, going from task to task, and never sort of sitting down and being able to pay attention and focus.
That's all those guys in Tennessee. Well, how's it diagnosed?
It's diagnosed through interview with the with the parents usually, or if it's an adult that has it, with the adult. Interestingly, about half the kids grow out of it, and half the kids don't. We're not quite sure, you know, why that is, but it's an interview and it's gathering data, because ADHD is a disorder that permeates all of the person's spheres of activity. So it's not something where they just have trouble concentrating at school, but they're great on the football field, and they're great in their in their relationships with their friends and church activities. It's something that cuts across all their activities and permeates all their their spheres of who they are as an individual. A lot of things can give ADHD symptoms. So, you know, as we diagnose it, we need to rule it out. I had one patient who was referred to me, he was a 9th grader, and the math teacher says he can't pay attention in class. He's always fidgeting, never concentrating, and I always need to call on him a few times because he's not listening. I got him in the office, and as I'm talking with him, I find out that his school is next to the high school, and he's getting beat up after school by some high school kids. So that last period is math. He's worried and frightened, so he has an anxiety disorder, and then he's thinking, well, how can I get a detention so that I have to stay after school so I don't get beat up, you know, by these peers? And so anxiety, depression, substance abuse, there's a lot of different learning disabilities that can give the symptoms of lack of concentration, attention, hyperactivity, and focus. So we need to rule out any other psychiatric disorders. We need to rule out some physical, some learning. Sometimes the kids just can't see, and they just need glasses, or they need a hearing check. So we need to rule out those things. Once we've ruled out all those possibilities, and we see that they have these symptoms, that there's classic lists that people can find on the internet of attention issues or hyperactive issues, then that gives us the diagnosis of ADHD.
And once they're diagnosed, then what's the treatment protocol for that diagnosis?
Yeah, you know, the treatment is a bunch of different things. Medications is, especially for the moderate to severe ADHD situations, medications can help with focus, concentration, all those attention elements. They can help with the hyperactive, impulsive elements. But just giving a medication all by itself isn't enough. You know, the medication just helps with symptoms, but now we need to help the kid, you know, manage, you know, some of life and the decisions that he makes as far as whether it's school, whether it's friends, whether it's being in part of a dance team or an athletic team. So being able to have some modifications in their environment are important. So teaching them how to look at a person's mouth when somebody's speaking to them so they can listen to the directions, because a lot of times these kids get home, they forgot the directions, they forgot what the homework assignment is. Having the person, you know, having the teacher or the parent look at the child in the eye so they know they're making good, you know, nonverbal connection and communication. We want to put them away from sound, so not next to the aquarium in the classroom. We want them to be up close to the teacher, so they're not seeing all the people fiddle with their hair and, you know, kick their notebook and those kind of things. At home, we want a nice clean space that doesn't have clutter, so they can concentrate, focus, you know, and have structure to their study time and to their activities. So those are some environmental things. Obviously sleep, nutrition, avoiding, you know, a lot of sugars and caffeine and those kind of things are important in dietary elements.
Sounds like everything that a teenage boy does is the wrong thing to do for that. Do you think that it's diagnosed too much? Is it overdiagnosed?
Well, that's the controversy with it. You know, I've seen people that are diagnosed with it because the diagnostic process is something that takes time, takes observation, and it takes ideally skilled people knowing what they're looking for. So sometimes parents aren't quite sure what to look at. Or they say, little Johnny's always fidgety. Well, he might be fidgety because he's uncomfortable in the house, or that he's getting picked on by somebody, or he's just restless, or he's just an active kid. And so I think it's overdiagnosed that kids with some behavioral problems are just given this, okay, well, they must be ADHD, let's put them on a medication and see if we can solve it.
The behavior that's being reported.
Right.
Now, can any physician prescribe anti-ADHD drugs?
Yeah, certain medications, certain ADHD medications are what we call controlled substances. So things like Ritalin and Adderall and all those stimulant package, the amphetamines, are restricted by the DEA. So you have to have a special license and a special certification to be able to prescribe those. Ideally, it's a pediatrician, it's a family practice doc, a psychiatrist, or neurologist are the 4 specialists that are able to prescribe these medications and understand how they work, the side effects, and what other environmental interventions need to happen to be able to help that child and the family.
Sounds like you have to take time with them and get involved and see what the layers are like in that child or that person's life before you can make that kind of diagnosis. It can't happen in one office visit.
It can't happen in one office visit. Whenever I see a patient, I talk to the child and observe them just in the interview. But a lot of times if they're face-to-face, if it's constricted to just me and them, they can usually concentrate and focus. I talk to the parents, and then we get reports from the teachers. So we go over some past grades of the last 3 or 4 school years to get that information. So we do lab tests to rule out other medical issues.
Yeah.
Sleep, if a kid's not sleeping at all, well, they're going to be rammy the next day. So we have to look at all that package before we can come up with a diagnosis, because these medications, have some danger to them.
We don't have time to go over the side effects because I know they do have side effects, but I want to thank you for coming and talking to us about this very important issue, and for parents and adults that are facing that or thinking about that, pray first, seek the wisdom of the Lord, and then find a qualified medical. You practice as the Lighthouse Network, and you can find references on our website, ctvn.org, so you can get more information and find out if this is a concern to you. Thank you for coming. God bless you, Doc.
Thanks a lot, Don. Great to be here.
Bye-bye.